organizations. So can I see by a show of hands those who want to contribute? Okay, number one. So just take your number one. Anyone else? Then number two, number three, number four, number five. That's five. Number five. So number one, you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Grace Sulu, and I'm from MultiChoice Zimbabwe, Skynet. The contribution that I have is a request for the committee to consider the amendment that is Section 7 of the bill. Section 7 lists different licenses. Among them is a subscriber management service license. And if I take the committee back to the definition under the bill, under Section 2, the definition of a subscriber management service includes, amongst other things, the call center operations and other aspects. But if you look at that particular definition, it is a support service to broadcasting. It is not an actual broadcasting service itself. The act itself, the main act, defines what broadcasting is, and it has to be the transmission of content, amongst other things. So the proposal is for the Section 7 to be divided into two, or for a new section to be created that recognizes non-broadcasting services. So if you want to set up a support service like a call center to the broadcasting service to help broadcasters, you would not be broadcasting yourself. You would be a support service called a subscriber management service under the already defined provision in Section 2. So the request is for non-broadcasting or broadcasting related services to be a class of licenses on their own. Maybe just to conclude, if that license falls under broadcasting licenses, where it's sitting right now, subscriber management service, it means that it will be considered a broadcaster, and the other obligations for actual broadcasters will be forced on them. So if I talk about the telecommunication industry, if you just sell talk time and cell phones, you are going to be considered to be a telecom operator when you are not. The idea is to separate those who offer a support service from those who offer the service, and therefore a category for non-broadcasting or broadcasting related services be created and subscriber management service be moved to there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just have one more. Thank you. The second is for consideration on the obligation to carry public service broadcasters. The particular provision in this case the provision that requires the carriage of at least 3 public service broadcast channels. The request is that the committee consider that when there is an obligation to carry, it carries with it, amongst other things, responsibilities in terms of costs. And where an obligation to carry several channels is placed on a private sector business, that can be an onerous cost in terms of ensuring that compliance is adhered to. So the request is for it to remain as it is in the current Act, where there's an obligation to carry one, and the broadcasters are able to negotiate with the broadcasters for other carriage that allows them to take it according to their own pace. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 2.
Thank you so much. I hope I'm quite audible. My name is Perfect Shomane. I represent the Media Alliance of Zimbabwe and also the Zimbabwe Union of Journalists. We have quite a number of issues that we want to submit, and on my paper I have about 6 issues that we are going to submit. I hope that the committee is going to allow me to go through all those issues. Let me also say that thank you so much, Chairperson, for giving us the bill and the issues contained therein. We, as the Media Alliance of Zimbabwe, are quite agreeable to some of the issues that are contained within the bill. And we are not going to belabor those issues. What we are going to do is just look at the issues that we think need to be dealt with, things that we think should be amended. And I will start with the issue of independence. We think that the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe should have independence as a regulator from the minister. We think that there is need for independence from the executive, an independent regulator. We are saying there is no need for excessive ministerial powers in broadcasting. Ministerial powers in the bill are excessive. An example are the powers in the appointment of the Broadcasting Services, the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe, BAS Board, in Section 4. We prefer that we conform to Section 2 of the African Charter on Broadcasting, and we think that we move that we should adopt this in the bill. The second issue that we want to submit is the issue on public consultations, where we feel that in every application of a TV or a radio license and protection from multiple owners of radio and TV licenses, there is need to ensure that there are public consultations to ensure that those licenses are issued after a process of consultation. Because we feel that there is need for both plurality and diversity. What we are seeing at the moment mostly is a plurality without diversity. And we move that no to media bullies, our voices matter. And there is, it is important that as people are going to be issuing, or the board is going to be issuing licenses, it consults the public. Section 10 must not exempt community broadcasters from public hearings. The public must participate in all application processes. The state broadcaster, the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, must also go through a public inquiry when they are being issued with additional licenses in terms of this law. The law should include a new provision to limit the number of licenses that one can get, to ensure diverse ownership, and to ensure more citizens can benefit and benefit from the freedom to establish a broadcasting entity as provided for by Section 61 of the Constitution. So what we have been seeing also, especially with regards to the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Services, we just hear that there are additional licenses given without the process of consulting the public. As a public broadcaster, we think that it should account to the public, and we must have input in that. Our third issue is that the process should be transparent, right to know, right to issues of accountability. Section 18 of the amendment bill must be amended to ensure that the transfer of licenses from one holder to the other be done in a transparent process. there is need to include a new section in this law, new section that compels bars to publicize the criteria for issuing licenses and to make public the scorecards justifying their reasons for awarding or denying licenses. This is not happening at the moment. We only are told that so and so has been issued with a license. We don't know on what score, we don't know what their strengths will be, and we think that that should be made public so that we know and there is accountability and transparency. The fourth issue is, well, we think that we need to deal with first things first. And first things first is that we need to reform the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation so that we pay, transform ZBC, hands off motorists, and let's reform the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation to be a pure public broadcaster. So Section 38, subsection 4 of the bill makes it mandatory for motorists to pay ZBC licenses before being issued with vehicle insurance and licenses. We think that that must fall away. It is illogical and unfair on motorists. Section 14 and 15 on the new ZBC broadcasting licenses must conform with Section 10 of the bill for the national broadcaster to justify before the public, who are the owners of ZBC, on why they need new stations and new licenses. The state broadcaster is yet to review the governance structure in line with the KPMG audit report of 2015, which recommended that they do exactly that, review the governance structures. The programming as it stands is poor quality and does not resonate with the audiences. And we think that all these are areas and issues that the broadcaster should reform on. The national broadcaster is in debt. When election observer missions reports and media monitoring reports confirm the national broadcaster's biases and partisan coverage, these reports are not just reports for the purposes of ticking the boxes, but they are reports that we must look at and the reports that we must then act on to say if they are reports that identify the biases, how, as the state broadcaster, are we going to deal with that and make sure that those biases are dealt with? When election observer missions reports and media monitoring reports confirm national broadcasters' biases and partisan coverage, I have spoken about this, that we need, the ZBC needs to transform that. There is no language diversity, particularly on television. And we think that the national broadcaster should actually deal with this in conformity with the Constitution, even to ensure that all languages have representation there. There is a fragmented legal framework for the national broadcaster with at least 3 laws governing the ZBC. And you find that because of this, there may be confusions in terms of making sure that the laws are followed to the T. So it is important that we streamline these laws to ensure that the national broadcaster follows the laws without any confusion. There is no parliamentary oversight in the appointment and the reporting structure of the ZBC board. It is very critical and important that this is done. Parliament has oversight. Parliament has, because Parliament represents the public. So we think that it should be the one that is directly in charge of making sure of the process of appointment of the board members. The national broadcaster is not as competitive And I'm raising all these issues under the issue of the transformation of the national broadcaster to be a true public broadcaster. Furthermore, the ZBC tax should be broadened beyond just the national broadcaster. A certain percentage of the collected taxes must go towards the broadcasting fund that supports all broadcasting media players, especially community broadcasters. This is very important because then it speaks to issues of sustainability of the media and especially players in the broadcasting sector. So our thinking is that the issue of licenses that are going to be collected should not just benefit the national broadcaster, but they should also benefit other players. As you would know that most of these laws, when they were enacted, the ZBC had monopoly and it was the only player in the industry. Now we have multiple players after the issuance of licenses. Why don't we then look at mechanisms and ways of ensuring that these players are sustained or are supported to make sure that they are sustainable? So we move that a percentage of the collections be set aside towards a broadcasting fund, which broadcasting fund will then support other players. Number 5, strengthen democracy. Parliament must have a bigger role in deciding regulators and regulations. Parliament must decide. Let us adopt the appointment model obtained in section 237 of the Constitution in the appointment process of the BAS board members. This is important because then it allows for that independence that we're talking about if we adopt that section. Then our last issue, which is number 6, broadcasting regulation in the age of digital convergence. And we say here, no to outdated laws. The law or the bill is silent on convergence, digitization, and artificial intelligence. We need a transitional clause to move the broadcasting regulatory framework towards convergence. This is where the industry is going. With the new technologies, new platforms and all, we are seeing media moving towards convergence. And we think that it is important that the bill captures that as we are looking forward to where we are going. These are the submissions that we have as the Media Alliance of Zimbabwe that we think the bill should capture, the bill should deal with, if we are going to curate a media space that we desire, a media space that actually account to the public. I so submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alliance. Next.
Makadimo yeZimbabwe. Zita rangu ndoitwawo Pearson Farai. I'm here representing the Zimbabwe Legacy Movement. Why I'm in support of this bill to become an act? It's because broadcasting plays a pivotal role, a very important pivotal role in controlling and safeguarding the national narrative. Perception by investors, national peace and stability, as well as the general outlook of Zimbabwe. General outlook as Zimbabwe, as whole of Zimbabwe. Currently, the media space is awash with negative press coverage that is tarnishing our country's image and scaring away investors because the giant ZBC is under-resourced to compete with the opposition media. The bill is also proposing a mandatory license system for motorists in order to recapitalize the national state broadcaster and restore control of our waves. This is not uncommon practice. SABC, BBC, and other stations out there that you may know, and many other state broadcasters around the world hold this mandate of collecting licensing fees in order to control information flow to the public in a harmless and harmonious manner. In order for the bill to pass, it requires us as citizens in Zimbabwe so that we'll be able to commit ourselves to contribute through licensing, so that to go out even quality pa ZBC haisi kutifadza, haisi kusvika kure. Saka tikuda mari inoenda ku transmission iwane mari, masaisai asvike kwese, because mukatarisa kumaruzeva vana havasi kutoziva kuti chii chiri kuitika, zvikuita sekuti ZBC ndemutown chete, vana classic 263 ndevemutown. Saka we need more money to be funded ku ZBC, so that we also have more community radios that will be opened across Zimbabwe, so that the information gap that is between the media and the underprivileged people in rural areas and other places that I cannot mention here is weak. And also this same agenda being advocated by the ministry through this bill, restoring control of the airwaves in order to propagate the truth about Zimbabwe, whilst suppressing the Western propaganda by enemy-sponsored broadcasters who are serving the interest of controlled opposition. I'm going to brush through also on the advantages of this bill becoming an act. It also promotes national interest, ensuring that broadcasting services promote Zimbabwean culture, values, and identity, and also regulates broadcasting industry, ensuring that operators adhere to standards and guidelines that promote responsible and informative broadcasting. Number 3, increase local content, requiring broadcasters to allocate a significant portion of their programming to local production, thereby supporting the growth of the local creative industry. Enhance media diversity, allowing for the licensing of more broadcasters, thereby increasing the range of viewpoints and opinions available to the public. Protects national security, ensures that broadcasters' services do not compromise national security by prohibiting the broadcast of content that may harm national interests. Empowers Zimbabweans. Empowering Zimbabweans by promoting citizen participation in the broadcasting industry, thereby enabling them to contribute to the development of the sector. Number 7, aligns with international best practices, ensuring that Zimbabwe's broadcasting industry is competitive and comparable to others globally. Number 8, fosters economic growth, promoting the development of the broadcasting industry, thereby creating jobs and stimulating economic activities. Number 9, preserving Zimbabwean culture by promoting the broadcast of local content that reflects the country's cultural heritage, enhancing national cohesion by promoting the broadcast of content that fosters national unity and social cohesion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next number 4.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Kadirisa. I'm a disability advocate, and our organization is Signs of Hope Trust, which caters for the needs of persons with disabilities. Our main goal is to make sure that access to information reaches everyone, including people with disabilities. So we propose that the bill consider the marginalized and increased access to information challenges, including the digital divide for people with disabilities. There is a clause that mentions the diversity of languages. I didn't see sign language on there, and we propose again that they should consider sign languages as part of the main 3 main languages. And we also propose that in the board of seats, one of the board seats should be filled with any person who has a disabilities, because they understand the disability world. Then we also need to exempt people with disabilities from paying radio license, including car radio licenses. Why? Because people with hearing impairment, they might own a radio license, but they might own a radio, but they cannot listen to the radio, so they should be exempted from that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 5.
Morning, everyone. My name is Konashe Mike from Zimbabwe Transformation Commission. I'm also a journalist. So I'm in support with the broadcasting. I'm in support with the amendment of the Broadcasting Act, chapter number 12, verse 6, which states that you can't have access to the motor vehicles licenses and insurances without owning a radio license from ZBC. From my own understanding, the country's legislation should promote equality and fairness. So, from my observation, I have noticed that a few people tend to pay for radio licenses. Why? Because some are they're saying it's not important because they don't understand where it is coming from. But it's a law. So if we're saying a law should be equal, it should be equal to everyone. Not just maybe badara muharare chete or capital cities. Because some people are just thinking the radio license thing inongobhadharwa nevanhu vari mutaundi vekumamusha vamwe havatombozvizivi. Saka ndiri kuti inini I think kuti amendment clause 15 number 38 yekuti munhu anopiwa access yemotor insurance ane radio license yakakosha because inoaffecta everyone, every citizen ari munyika. Haisi kuti ndevanhu vakapfuma or the bridge, both vamwe vanhu vari kumamusha kuka they don't even have access to the radio license, havatombozvizive. Yet we are saying it's a law inoaffecta munhu wese. So kana tichiti law inoaffecta munhu wese, we are saying everyone should pay for it. Kana uine radio mumota, you are supposed to have a radio license. Why? Because une mota uri kufanira kubhadhara nditi wabhadhara kudaro vari kumatanga vari kumamusha futi vese vanofanira kubhadhara nekuti vane radio, kwete kuti vanhu vari kumusha chete vaaffectwe nezvazvo. So tiri kuti pekutanga point yangu yekutanga ndeyekuti inobatsira pauequality because kana mutemo uri wenyika ngawe equal kumunhu wese. So munhu wese atiri kuti akapiwa after zinara zvinobatsiridza pakuti everyone anowana access, wese ane mota ane radio license kana asina opiwa hake exemption yake. Number 2, panyaya yema-inconveniences akumiswa muroad everywhere. There is a pane road block yeZBC, mapurisa eZBC, and unotomira sometimes hauna mari yacho wakutoinconveniencwa maybe uda kuenda kubasa or kutomhanyira murwere uri nerufu mari yacho kalistu mani kawinako ikako kauda unoshandisa kumberi wakutofoswa kunzi ubhadhara radio license zvanga zvisiri plan of which wo kana wachitenga kudhara pekutanga paunotenga insurance yako wonzi aupiwe insurance usati wapiwa license that means ukazopiwa license insurance waane license reredio license yemota riya reredio rewireless saka pasina chakumisa misangoti nzero dzako dzikungoendeka wakungofamba zvakanaka kamari kaike hauchakashandisa because pamwe zvinhu zvacho zvino unobatwa usina kana mari ende mari iyo unenge uine plani nayo kuti uchibhadhara ipapo kufunga kuti ndinoda kushandisa kuchipatara kuti vanzwisise mapurisa anenge achinoti hayewa budisai mari so I think kuti zvinhu zviri right tinoredusa mainconvenience road vamwe vanhu vanokungobatirirwa because vamwe vanhu vanotaura kuti hatibhadhare because they don't even know about it yet ilaw yenyika and should be fair to everyone tikapromota amendment iriko iri kunzi munhu anopiwa license radio license anopiwa insurance yezinhara after apiwa radio license I think it will be better and safer izvobva zvava equal mutemo unyaso uripo mutemo unodai so munhu wese oziva kuti zvakakosherei uye zvakanakirei ndatenda.
Thank you very much. I'll take another round of questions. I also ask that we stick to one language. So if you are going to any language of your choice, you must show that you really English, whatever it is, has stick to one language. This is for the benefit of our answers, or just what we know. So I will take another 5 more. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Others. Well, let's go with the for now.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I must start by commending you for the excellent overview for this amendment here. It helped us to actually focus on the critical issues on this amendment bill. My name is Robson Mani. I'm former ZBC, but today you can see my head is a different one. I'm no longer putting a broadcaster's head. I am representing the ruling parties and PF in this engagement. Thank you very much. I think my colleagues who have spoken before me, 5 of them, I think they've done a wonderful job to focus on critical issues, including the issues of our national broadcaster. I'm not one who shall ever denigrate the national broadcaster because they made me what I am today. I have no qualms about it. But there are critical issues that I plead the committee to consider. Number 1 is from our law's point of view. The national broadcaster is presently guided by the Broadcasting Services Act and the Commercialization Act. I wish to put it to this committee that we have it as an amendment that the national broadcaster be governed by just one act, which if it is passed into law, good for us. That can we correct the botch-up work that we did before of having the Broadcasting Services Act and the Commercialization Act, if it could be. Number 2, the law currently says Zimbabwean citizens who are paying licenses, radio, television, they are paying for ownership of the gadget. It doesn't talk about the services provided, it doesn't talk about other critical issues. Can we consider changing that to not just ownership of a gadget? You may own a gadget that is not functional, that is not working, and you get harassed for ownership of that gadget. Can we do something about that? I believe it's an old law, past several years, I believe even before independence. That's an important issue. I see the huge effort to find is a good thing for us. But let's agree that spoon-feed approach to capacitate the national broadcaster is not the best, all things being considered. We must also go a further issue to say the national broadcaster, after being capacitated by the authorities that be and all of us as Zimbabwean citizens, we must evaluate them. We must ask them to pay a dividend to the state, to the government of Zimbabwe. We have capacitated to do this. What have you done in terms of performance? There must be critical performance measurements for the national broadcaster to produce a dividend, and specific dividend that does not remain just talk show business, but every year they are asked to produce a dividend after being capacitated. And the capacitation should not be a seasonal capacitation approach where we see a huge effort to capacitate the national broadcaster when we are holding elections. The national broadcaster must be there to carry out its mandate, perfectly professional and everything else. It must not be an important organization only when we are holding elections. What happens to the 5 years before we go into the next elections? Will the national broadcaster stop functioning? So I plead with this honorable committee to consider that capacitating the national broadcaster is very fine, but there must be critical performance issues in modern world governance issues where strategic management is the in thing. Can we also, through you, Mr. Chairman, and the honorable committee members, clearly state that the dynamics, the optics have changed? We used to have a situation where radio and television were the two pillars of broadcasting. The modern world has added a third one, which combines radio on the other side and television on the other side. Digital programming is very important considering worldwide trends for effective broadcasting. Can we have it clear in this bill, which I believe and pray that it will be approved into an act, that we now have a three-pillar, three-tier broadcasting industry, which is television, radio, and digital programming. These three for broadcasting must be a mandate for anyone who wishes to get a broadcasting license. And the Broadcasting Authority of Zimbabwe must also be capacitated to consider those issues when they are issuing licenses for those who want to be involved in the field of broadcasting. It is important for this field. I see everyone being excited about just willy-nilly talking about broadcasting. From a very professional career growth issue, broadcasting is about quality, professionalism, best practice, international standards. My example is in our SADC region. Our best broadcaster, whether you like them or you don't like them, SABC is up there, above everyone else in the SADC region. The reason being their approach. The government supports SABC operations from their legal framework, from their operations, from their resource point of view. And they make sure they are consistently in line with modern trends in equipment. This field of broadcasting is technology driven. If you don't focus on equipment, you will never be successful in broadcasting. And if we don't focus on providing modern, relevant, and competitive equipment, we can stand to blame each other for the next 20, 30, 50 years because we are focusing on the wrong things. Can we be strategic? Can we be professional? Can we we consider quality issues, even in the way we speak, even the way we talk about languages? We've been talking about languages. Someone says sign language. In here, in this process, we don't even have any consideration for sign language because we feel we are all able-bodied. But sign language is critical. Our constitution now says we recognize 16 languages, including sign language. Can we have it specific in this amendment process that this language must be practically treated this way, that way, without bias, without excluding or ignoring any square centimeter of Zimbabwe? Because we have diverse languages, we have diverse communities, so it must be practical. This is what we plead to this committee as far as amendments are concerned. Let's consider, please, Honorable Chairman and your committee members, the culture of Zimbabwe. What is it that we call the culture of Zimbabwe, apart from just language, apart from just dressing, apart from the way we act, apart from the way we do things? Right now, I can tell you, content issues of ZBC are not structured. One way, depending on the CEO who is there, depending on the board chair who is there, a certain church can be banned from content, or a certain church or certain churches can find their way as part of content at ZBC. Religious, traditional leaders can just be ignored because there is this regime of leadership at the national broadcaster. Or on these new players we have coming to the field of broadcasting, they can do the way they want. Can we have content, professional best practice parameters for production? Because that's broadcasting. If you don't produce even 5-second sound, if you don't produce, you don't know broadcasting, and we are not talking about that field if you don't know how production goes on. Because we want content, radio content, television content, and digital programming content. Can we talk about quality issues? Can we talk about those issues? I'm happy to talk about governance issues. My brothers and sisters who have spoken, they've delved into that. But please, honorable members, I'm with you. I'm looking at your faces. I'm looking into your eyes. Have we considered culture issues for the different constituencies that we represent? Did we consider the ordinary person in that constituency, in that ward that you are representing? It's not general talk, because we're talking of a bill that is going to be transformed into an act. It must represent all. And I believe our cultural artifacts must come clean, and we must respect all aspects of our cultural artifacts. I'm the talkative person, and I'll spend the rest of the day talking, but please allow me to end here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 2.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and members of the committee. My name is Green Pascal Ueda from Media Monitors. I'm here to second and solidify the 6 key points raised by the chairperson of the Media Alliance of Zimbabwe, Mr. Lomani, particularly on issues to do with how do we intend to fund broadcasters. Starting from the public broadcaster, the approach of concentrating on motorists only, it's in my view a violation of the rights of those motorists. It is my humble submission that the committee and all those behind the crafting of the bill actually find ways to fund the public broadcaster and, by consequence, other broadcasting players through the broadcasting fund. But what has to be done, we need a more diverse and inclusive model of tapping into the potential sources of revenue we've identified. Focusing on motorists alone is discriminated and actually narrows the net. Why can't we be finding other models where, for example, as we import television stations, the television sets, people can be built the license at the border, the import. Then as the television set is sold, another way is found how to generate that money. In other countries, like Mozambique, they use a system where they view it on the electricity tariff. Something like that, then it too becomes more diverse. If we build a motorist today, I have a car and build a ZBC license. When I get to home, the same guys will my neck. So it's a double jeopardy. We need a sustainable and diverse way. Then coming to the issue of the broadcasting fund, my concern is we need to ensure that it is more transparent, the process of share. If we say, for example, ZBC is getting 30 and other players are getting 70, how are we putting in mechanisms to ensure that there is transparency to that chain flow of the monies, accountability mechanisms, and ensuring that all players actually benefit? Community broadcasters in particular, because they do not have any other sources of funding, they are grassroots driven and they do not have sources of profit. I thank you very much. Last year we conducted a study on media viability, and another on community broadcasting, another on television broadcasting, and I'm happy that some of our recommendations, which we actually proffered, were taken on board by the community, but even issues to do with the foreign licensing of foreign shareholders and broadcasters and whatever. And we are grateful that some of those actually speak towards sustainability, but the spoon-feeding approach to ZBC is not so ideal, as highlighted by the previous speaker. I think on Friday, ZBC actually received equipment. It is written as consignment/donation. People on Twitter queried very much, who is this other donor who was not mentioned? I think the PM secretary went into a bit of a war of words with people over who is the said benefit. ZBC being a public entity, I'm sure the benefit of the just vote. So again, it speaks to those issues. How are we going to fund? Are we going to continuously every year be giving vehicles, funding, whatnot, without an index where we can then gauge the performance of the public service broadcaster to warrant any further intervention? I think I will make some changes.
Thank you. Number 3.
Ndichataura nerurimi rweshona. Ndaida kumbobvunza. Ndasinganyatsoziva asunzira. Alright. Ndasikunyatsozviziva nezvebill up until today. Vataura brief. Ndaida kubvunza mubvunzo wangu ndikunyanya kubvunza. Mubvunzo wangu uri nyaya kuti kana tichitaura zvemedia nezvelicensing, are we recognizing social media outlets as part of media outlets are operate in Zimbabwe? For example, vana WhatsApp, vana Facebook, vana X, vana Twitter, and also imomo social media platforms we have other media outlets that are operating informally. For example, tikataura ana Zim celebs, ana like my individuals like ana Didi Hope, for example. So do we have a way that is included in the bill to regularize and licensing also kana mstora nyema licensing of media outlets vanhu vakadaro kana ma informal organizations akadaro? And also does the bill have a plan yekuti after we license ma media outlets output mari yedu ichafamba so tichapromota izvi. So ndo zvandiri kungotraya kungobvunza zvanasi.
Okay, thank you. Now, anyone, any member, citizen, resident, free to give their views on the bill. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 1.
Thank you, Honorable. My name is Cephas Mvuta, and I'm here representing ZACAS, Zimbabwe Association of Community Radio Stations. We applaud the effort of amending the bill, and we have taken note some of the clauses that we think are not in the best interest of community radio stations. We concur with the speaker from MAS. Most of the 16 sections that we spoke of, we are totally in agreement with. I'd like to draw attention to clause number 7, which is the amendment of section 10, where it states that the authority shall at least once a year, subject to availability of band spectrum, issue broadcasting licenses. As much as we feel there's need for clarity there, there's no clarity in terms of, we need timelines rather, so that we know that broadcasting is very capital intensive. We wouldn't want a situation where the call is just sprung upon the players. We need time to prepare, and so we need timelines there. Then moving on to section B, which exempts community radio applicants from public inquiry. We still feel community radio stations shouldn't be exempted there. There should be a transparent process where we know what's the criteria used to license these community radio stations. Thank you, I submit.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chair. My name is Mlondo Rosendo. I am a practicing journalist. My submission is closely related to what my brother Sifas has just stated. The provision that the licensing process should be open only to members of the public or to would-be broadcasters once a year, for me, I think is still retrogressive. I propose that we come up with a provision that allows that the licensing process becomes open throughout the year, or that at most we have a date that allows those that want to be broadcasters to actually make licenses. Say we propose and we say perhaps by June of every year, members of the public should be allowed to, those that wish to apply should make their applications. So I propose that it becomes an open process rather than the current process whereby we want to close it up. Also, I am of the view that the alibi that the spectrum are a limited resource does not hold water in the context of digital media. Someone earlier on suggested that we want to open up the media and we want to look at the media in the context of digital migration. So the bill needs to take note of those issues, given that there are other categories of licenses that may not have anything to do with the spectrum. So I also want to support the previous speakers who spoke on the need to do away with the mandatory licensing for all motorists before they acquire their insurances. Because I think that, in my view, this provision is unfair, it is discriminatory, and it doesn't allow fair representation of all citizens, given that the media now, particularly radio, are now accessible through all forms or a number of forms of or channels of receivers. We have people that can access media on their mobile phones, we have people that can access on their television sets. All those are exempted if we are to use that kind of reasoning. That is my submission, Chair.
Thank you. Number 3.
That is being
we need to govern social media, because nowadays you can hardly tell what's the truth from what's not, especially with artificial intelligence. Someone can even post a video of you, but you're not even there, and it's hard to tell if it's true or not. So I think we need to bridge that gap and use those technologies, take advantage of those technologies, and also control them to protect, especially the youth. You can see nowadays people are posting videos of nudity and whatnot. So we need to protect the youth from those things, because they also tarnish the image of our country as well. Thank you.
Thank you, number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, all the members. My name is Ryan Desert, and I'm just helping. So my contribution is coming to support that I'm giving the proposed licensing bill, which is seeks to introduce compulsory licenses in Zimbabwe. So I'll just speak of two of the strategic points that I had out, which is this licensing bill enhances funding for the public broadcasting. So compulsory radio licenses will improve and will provide a sustainable revenue stream for public broadcasting, such as the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation. This funding will ensure that the production of high quality will be done and diverse programming that reflects national culture and addresses public issues. This is the benefit of this bill. And also, I would also want to give another advantage of this bill, which is coming with this bill, which is the alignment of with this international standards. Many countries, like the United Kingdom, they have what we call the BBC license, and the South Africa also have the ZBC license, which use a compulsory radio license to fund public broadcasting. So adopting this measure will ensure that we place Zimbabwe in line with the local practice. That is my contribution in support of this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you, number 5.
Yeah, I think I want to agree with the contribution of 40% foreign involvement. It's very important, because we are talking about the enhancement of image and perception as far as Zimbabwe is concerned. We also have to diversify globally, and all the other contributions which have been said earlier on, I think they're also very important. However, first and foremost, what we have experienced as the new board members in this term of office, we can see that the professionalism, quality, and effectiveness is alluded to this man. I think he is taking us on a very big note. So, code of conduct for journalists is very important. We should find its place somewhere, somehow, in this constitution, because we need something which is called etiquette, grooming, and reporting for these people. Because, you know, they are marketing Zimbabwe, they are teaching the young generation, and the way they are dressing sometimes is pathetic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are going to take another round of contributions. So again, by raising hands, so that you can come to. Feel free. This is the space that is free, and nothing you say here can get you in trouble. So you are protected by parliamentary immunities. The same immunity we enjoy when we are debating in Parliament, where you can't be arrested for anything you say. It's the same one that applies here as well. So you are actually Parliament. So you are protected by our state orders in terms of anything you say. No one can come and sue you for anything you say. So please feel free to give your contribution. Any more? Okay. Number one, that's one. Anyone else? Okay, here's the back there. Number two, anyone? Number three. Anyone else? Anyone else? There's two more there. Yeah, number four. Then last one. Anyone who wants to close? Number five. Okay. So let's start with number one. Number one.
Right, my name is Michelle. So I'm in support with this bill. Sorry, my name is Michelle. Right, I'm in support with this bill because I think it creates a uniform framework for licensing, making it easier for companies and consumers as well to understand their rights and obligations. Then also, I think it minimizes disputes over copyright infringement related to radio broadcasting frequency, leading to fewer legal challenges. So I think this bill should be passed. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I goes by the name Macnon Nove with the Zimbabwe Legacy Movement. I just want to add on, in a way, supporting the bill. And I just want to add on the issue of paparazzi and street journalism. I would wish and I would believe it would be good for our nation if something would be done. Because improper dissemination of information is affecting us, especially as youth. Because, for example, occurred an accident, someone took a picture of someone's mother lying in the road, and then boom, it's in our phone. She has collapsed. That's because of improper information. I believe the new bill should see into it that no information is transferred without proper channels, for it is harmful in a way and it lacks respect. Thank you.
Number three.
I'm against that. Broadcasting is about our national interest. It's about our cultural values and so forth. So foreign ownership of broadcasting services is not, I go against it. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, next.
National broadcaster
anofanira kukwanisa kutsvaga revenue ega neadvertising hati ngeno zomwamiro wake ozvanga contribution yangu dzapesa.
Okay, thank you. Next, at the back there.
Thank you so much. My name is Alfred Dennis, the community broadcaster. I want to commend the process which you've started and the level where you are at the moment. This process will be fruitful if we consider, or if I may solidify one submission that has been given, to at least open up the process of licensing other than to have it staggered regularly, say open per year. It would be nice just to have an open process where if I just come up with my initiative, I'll free that given time come in just start the process of licensing, other than to wait for that moment when they are being considered. Maybe to have to be inconvenienced. And then the aspect of the levies that we are saying, the broadcast levies, those contributions that go straight to the ZBC, I think they need to be liberalized in a way. One submitter once said, it would be good if we even say, for example, we've got buying television sets. They are in a better position to be licensed than that of a motorist. So we might need to cast the net wider and just focus on a certain set of people that is a motorist. So just to solidify that submission, we need to cast the net wider. Those who are buying the radio in itself, that the one who is buying a motor car, someone may not just have the in the motor. Lastly, I would like to say, these efforts can only be solidified or concretized if we genuinely take the process into motion and act upon it, than just to be a talk in the process where we sit and talk and don't implement any of those things that we'll be talking about. It is good for us now to take action, to be masters of our actions, than just to speak, to talk, to confess, to convey, but nothing coming out of it. It is time for us to take things into action than just to be talking points. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wants to say something? Yes, here. Is there anyone else? Number 2, number 3. Anyone else? Okay, in that order.
Zita rangu ndinonzi Ephraim Kativu. Ndabva kuHarare province ndiri Veterans League. Chandandoda kukumbira kuna chairman nemamembers enyu ndechekuti mutero wacho unobhadharwa dai waregedza kuita kudzinga vanhu kuti vasabhadhara, ngauve mutemo unobhadharika kuitira kuti vanhu vadini vafarire kubhadhara. Faini yacho ndiyo yokwira nokuti munhu hakuna anoda kubhadhara faini yakakura pane mutengo unofanirwa kubhadhara. Uye nemavandiro akaita vanhu vemuZimbabwe population nemotikari dziriko dziri kufamba mumugwagwa, vanhu vakatenderwa kubhadhara mari shomanene. Motikari dziri kuma400,000 inodavira kuti imari yakawanda inokwanisa kunosumudza broadcasting services yedu. Ndobva ipapo iyo broadcasting yacho muchikurukura imimi ndimi vanotimiririra muri kuparamende kuti hurumende ngaiite kuti iyo broadcasting services yacho iwe competitive. Tisanotsvaga masaisai eDSTV kana SABC, isu tiine ZBC. Ngatiifarirewo ZBC yedu nokuti inenge ichitipa zvatinoda. Zvimbori zvipo zvatinoenda kunoona kuDS nezvatinoona kuSABC nekuBBC. Sei broadcast yedu isiri kukwanisa kuita kuti tiwane zvinofarirwa nevanhu zvinoita kuti vade kubhadhara ungava mutero kana kuona ZBC yacho pachezvayo, TV zvese neredio. Ngazvitangire kumusoro ikuku kuhurumende kunyanya, zvichidzika zvinoita kuti vanhu vasati ndezvehurumende ndezvekanzuro. Izvozvo ndizvo zviri kuita kuti vanhu vatadze kubhadhara nokuti zvinhu zvavari kuona nezvavari kutarisira zvido zvavo handizvo zviri kuti zvinonotaurwa, asi kuzadziswa kwazvo asi kuzadziswa nenzira inodii sematauriro ari kuita vanhu vari muno, nokuti vanhu vari muno ndo vane zvavari kuda zvamuri kubvunza imimi. Dai manga muri kunoita zvamunoda mungadai musina kuuya kunotibvunza, mungadai mangoita muri kupi, muri kuparamende. Asi izvozvi zviri kutaurwa navanhu ndo zvavari kuda, mukavaitira izvozvo tinoona kuti kana ZBC yacho inoonekwa, kana mari dzamuri kutaura dzemalicenses dzinobhadharika, nokuti muri kuita zvavari kuda vanhu vari muno vamuri kutaura navo vamuri kubvunza. Zadzisai zvido zvevanhu ava, zvamuri kutaura zvinozadziswa. Ndatenda.
Next. Number 2.
My name is Alex, and I firmly believe that the proposed mandatory radio licensing bill is a strategic move to claim our national narrative and promote a balanced representation of our history, values, and aspirations. This bill is a crucial step towards empowering the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation to compete effectively with opposition media and promote our national interests. By introducing a mandatory licensing system, we will generate revenue to support our national broadcaster and safeguard our national sovereignty. As a nation, we have been subjected to negative press coverage that has tarnished our image and scared away investors. This bill presents an opportunity for us to take control of our airwaves and promote a narrative that reflects our true history and values. I urge all members here present to rally behind this bill and support its passage. Together, we can shape the future of our nation broadcasting landscape and promote a more balanced society.
Ndokutendai mahonorable members nechirongwa chamauya nacho chebhure. Inonzi kugara nakaona dzevamwe. Ndinoona sekuti makanga maona kuti mamwe ma-broadcasting stations akaita sana SABC vana BBC vakazvifambisa sei, ende mukatarisa nambo wamwe vachitaura kuti zvirongwa zvinobuda paZBC zvimwe zvacho hazvinakidzi kuona. Zvinopa kudaro chinokonzera kudaro chokuti havana funding yakanaka. Mukazvikombeya neSABC yanga ichinzi navamwe inobudisa zvirongwa zvakanaka kungoti gare wakutovhura SABC kuona generations. Chikonzero chekuti yakafandiwa, iri kubhadha, iri kutora mari through radio license kubva kudzimotokari nemudzimba, ende vanhu vacho vari kuda kubhadhara nemoyo wese. Saka iyi yamauya nayo kuti ive mandatory yekuti usati watora mutero wezinharo, usati watora mutero weinsurance, tanga wapuwa ZBC. Aiwa zvindotenda muono wakanaka wakajeka. Ndo saka mutoona nhasi BBC iri pamberisa even nekutevhenyura kwayari kuita zvirongwa zvayo nokuti ine funding yakakwana. Even though yenyu musina kuzoti dai mawedzera futi kuti nyangwe tikapuhwa ZBC ikapuhwa kana kuti collect mari through radio license, dai muchitoisa futizve pabudget renyika kuti ikwanisezve kukolekta mari yakati wandei, nokuti zvinobva zvabatsira nekuwakusakasvika information sekumaruzevha kwatikutora zvako vanobva kugokwe kwabusu, vanobva kwanembudziya, vanobva kupi, havana information yakati ZBC yakwanisa kusvika because haina equipment, haina motokari dzoti dzisvike, zvairi kungwana zvirimwe mudhuze. Saka senhepfenyuro yenyika inenge ichimirira zvirongwa zvinoitwa nenyika, mukairamba muchiifanda, izvo zvinobatsira. Saka chirongwa chamauya nachechi ndochikurudzira, ndochifarira zvikuru, ndonga vamwe vedu vachava nevision yekuti kugara mukaona zvikangotifambe zvikatanga kubuda neurongwa nezvirongwa zviri paZBC ndonga zvinoti chinje because vanenge vane mukana havana chavanozochema nekuti hatina mari yekunokavha chakati, hatina mari yekuenda kubhinga unotaura nerudzi rwechitonga, hatina mari yekunotaura nemavhenda, vanenge vava nadzo malanguages ese anga achemwa nezvawaya anenge akukwanisa kukavhika nyika yese, nokuti pari zvino zvoita fanika Zimbabwe inongori Harare and Bulawayo, but kana zvinhu zvikare zvazadzikiswa mutemo wabudirirawo mari yavepo ndokunga ZBC haina chaichazochema nacho mangwana. Saka ndinotenda nemuono wamakaona uyu vatungamiriri vedu kuti makaona fanika zvakanaka kuti vanhu vakwanise kubhadhara mari dzakati wandei vachishandisa chimutero wemotokari. Ndinotenda.
Anyone else before we close?
I just want to buttress the point that have been saying already. I think mandating motorists alone in this country is very discriminatory if we care to read our constitution. Nowadays, if you might go going the radio and access a radio on TV, because she can't do so much, so just go to the radio. She listens to the radio. That device. So everyone access. So why are you targeting motorists alone? So there must be a real look on that specific aspect that mandates motorists. Some also have radios in their houses. Lots of people who are very political conscious. So they also too must be paid to pay licenses like any motorists. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And the last one?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. My name is Pastor Shaddai. I come from 6. I come from an organization called South African National Union Patriotic Front. I don't know what it means in short. My contribution is very simple. In whatever things you want to do, we need a budget. The issue here is to do with the budget. Who sponsors ZBC becomes the key issue. I want to simplify things here. Let's take, for example, we have 15 million population of Zimbabwe, and then let's say 12 million own those gadgets, the TV, the radio, etc. And let's say, let's just get $1 from those 12 million. How much do we raise? It's 12 million. If we are honest enough in working unison, we stop corruption, we move forward. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much to all those who have contributed. I think we are just on time. Thank you for all those who have given their contributions. Remember, if you still feel you need to contribute something, you can always do so by emailing our clerk at Parliament. I think clerk at parliament.gov.zw. You can still email, or you can send it to the committee. You can send us your views. But we are only starting now, so this is just the beginning. Harare, and then we are going to other towns throughout this whole week. But you can still send in your contribution should you feel that now you have heard from what people are saying and you feel that you still want to make a contribution to this bill. thank you, the public, for coming out and adding your voice to this very important amendment bill. It's very important, and it also speaks to an involved citizenry. You are involved. That's why you are all here, to hear and listen to how we should be making our laws. So I want to thank you very much, everyone who showed up and came here. Apologize a little bit for the air conditioning. It's not so good. I know it's starting to feel like we're in COVID here, but nonetheless, we are still alive. I also want to thank the honorable members who came here today and parliament staff for all coming. So this brings to the end this public consultation. So remember, for those who still want to send their suggestions, it clerk is CLERK at PARLZIM.gov.zw. Please do send. Just put your heading as Broadcasting Services Amendment Bill. Then that will definitely come to our committee, and we will basically put that into our deliberations when we do our committee report. So remember, after we have collected everything, we then do a report to Parliament. So we report to the whole Parliament that we went around these places, and this is what the citizens are saying. So that when other MPs stand up to debate, they are also cognizant of what the public is saying. Even the minister as well will be there to listen to the views that came from the citizens, and will be urging the minister to amend appropriately the bill as to what the citizens do want. So thank you very much and have a good day. This brings to the end this session. I'm going to ask someone who is free to give